Okay, so we are, this one's rear-wheel drive, right? So I welded the center diff in it, and it's back together now, and tightened up. So before I install it, this is an outer cup of a CV axle. Or I guess this is the inner cup of a CV axle. And so what I'm going to do is just install this on the transmission. So going rear-wheel drive, we're locking out what we did when we welded the center diff. We locked, just like on a rear differential, when you weld the rear differential, you're welding it so that all the power goes to both axles, where the spider gears don't have that ability to decide which output to go to, right? And in some cases they only go to one. So when we weld it, it puts power, equal power, going to both directions of the output shaft, or both output gears. So when we welded our center differential, we made it so output was sent to both directions equally. And in that case, in the center differential, that means it's going to put half the power up to the front and half the power out the rear, out our drive shaft. So we're still going to have power going to our front axles, so you have to remove those. But you don't want to just completely remove them, because there's a carrier bearing in here. And this one's good still, because it doesn't wiggle or anything. But the carrier bearing needs something to keep this axle stub from pulling out or doing something funky, because that's going to be spinning just as fast as the rear drive shaft. So we're going to pin half an axle cup into the front so that we don't have any issues with the axle stub moving in and out. Now to do that, what I did with these ones, I went to the junkyard and I found a CV axle that was blown, and I cut it apart like I'm going to do this to this one, and I'll show you what you do. Once you have that, you take this and you just slip it on there and pound in your roll pin, and you're done. And now they're relatively small. Actually, I don't know if I do want to do it right now, but it's going to be easy to see. So we'll kind of just mock it up. So you want to put this in once you get it up in the engine, because I forgot, the bottom bolts are way easier to get in without anything on the CV or the axle stub. So we're gonna wait and put this in later. I'm also gonna clean it out a little better, just so it doesn't throw grease all over, and that'll be good. So did I say everything? Did I explain it all? I think I did. Yeah, so you're just going to slide this boot on. I need a rag because mine has a bunch of dirt in it. Let me grab a rag right there. I stuck it on the ground at the junkyard, which is just gravel. And I'm going to grab my sledge and I'm just going to go ahead and knock off this brass piece. It doesn't really need it, and it's full of rocks. So I'm going to just knock it off because I don't want to deal with it. So let me grab my sledge. There you go. Just knocked that off. I just knocked that off. And then you'll just line up the splines so that the hole will line up, just like that. And they'll turn, then you just line it up that way, and go ahead and run that pin right into it. But we're going to wait to do that until it's actually in the car, because getting this bolt in is way easier with nothing here. So, that's what we're doing. Right now though, I'm going to go ahead and tear this one apart for you live viewers, because I need to do it anyway and it's pretty fun. I just need the right screwdriver, and I'm going to use a pick. So you just pull that off, and then you pull off the bottom one the same way. I'm just using a hooked pick to get in on it. That way it can slide. And you pull back. This one doesn't have very much grease in it because it was blown. And slide the boot back, just like that. Grab your sledge again, and you just beat it off. So slide it out to the end. It'll pop right off, and then you'll lose a bunch of ball bearings, which is fine. So there's your cup. This is actually the one that was on the transmission when I bought it, and it was blown. There's that. The cup goes right on, fits nicely. Check this one again. That one fits nicely enough. This one I think is the original. It's smaller than this bigger one, but that won't really make any difference. Sweet. There's our two cups. We will install those when the time comes. I'm just going to grab some paper and wrap this up. Actually, I'm going to pull this other side off too, because you do the same thing. Alright, so I have both my cups taken apart. They fit really well because obviously they're stock. This one was from an automatic. I think this one was from an automatic as well. So automatic and manual CV cups work the same. I don't remember if the whole axle does or not. I think it does. I don't remember. I don't remember though, so don't take my word for it. So we also are going to pull off the outer CV cup the same way, because the same thing with our axle stub bearing, we have our wheel bearing that also needs support. And so if you're not running an axle in the front, the wheel bearing can shift around side to side. So we are going to pull these off, and just when we're done, we'll slide these into the wheel bearing and in the hub assembly and tighten them down with some Loctite. Obviously you won't be able to tighten them down to, I don't know, like 100 pounds, 100 foot-pounds or whatever. You're supposed to tighten axle nuts too, but that will be just fine. We'll get it pretty tight. We might even figure out some way to hold these internally on the inside of the hub, so that we can get them torqued pretty good. But if not, we'll just use some Loctite and we'll be good. So to pull this one off, these ones are aftermarket ones, so they're set up a little differently. but pull that off. We're going to do the inside one too, the littler one, just because it's easy enough to get those off, and then you can slide it down. Like that. Well, anyway, pull that down. This one has a ton of grease in it because it was still good. It had some cracks in the boot, but for the most part it was still good. So then you just pull it back, and same like we did with the other one, grab your sledge, and maybe just beat it off. Now those ones are really easy to come off because they pull off the whole end of the axle. And it actually leaves the CV joint, the actual bearings and everything, in this end of the cup, which is fine. I think I'm just gonna soak these in brake clean so that we can get them cleaned off, because they don't need to be greasy, and I don't want them throwing grease all over the inside of my all over the undercarriage of the car. So we have that. I'm gonna put that one in the bucket with this one. You can see they're a bit different. These aftermarket ones that I pulled off, they have this extra gear on them. I guess it's not a gear, it's just like a cover. So you can just knock them off like that. And yeah, this aftermarket one is bigger. I think I did pull it off of a third generation Legacy, so that could be one reason why it's a bigger one. And these ones obviously came off of the car when I bought it. So that might be the only difference. I don't know, I didn't check. I don't even have the axle shaft. I left it at the junkyard on these ones, so I don't know. But either way, it'll work. It's going to do the job we need, because we just need stubs to stick in the hub assembly so our wheel bearing doesn't fall out, and onto the axle stubs on the transmission so that we don't have any issues with our ring and pinion on the inside. So those go in the bucket. We're going to wrap up this CV axle, and I'm probably going to hold on to it just for kicks, because it is a pretty dang solid piece of steel. And like you saw with the rear sway bar, we used it to make hangers for that Harley exhaust. So it's always good to hang on to some metal, especially when it's this thick and round and everything. It'll work out pretty cool. So yeah. Okay. So pick up these ball bearings. And then I'm going to grab some paper and wrap that up. What?
Give your card, your credit card.
Yeah, it's in my back pocket. Sounds good.
Is the gate?
I think it's unlocked, yeah. I think Lisa took the lock. You gonna hang out with me, Winnie? You wanna pull his thing around the other side so that he doesn't feel so trapped? Okay. Okay, I need another one. I have that monster in the car? I think I do.
In the car?
Or in the fridge.
We can always get that somewhere else at a gas station or something.
Well, it's cheaper at Macy's. They usually have them on sale.
Can we just get one?
Yeah, just get one.
Just the regular.
Get one that has a screw-on cap.
Okay.
I think the Rockstar ones that I like, not monsters. It's like a red and black and silver. I don't know. The fruit punch one anyway.
Okay.
The monsters we got was disgusting.
Yeah.
They were on a really good sale in Minnesota.
I'll go that far, and then do you want beef jerky or nuts or
Sure.
just
Wasabi peas.
little things?
We should be fine because we'll be able to switch to that.
Yeah, and I was thinking too about maybe getting donuts for breakfast Thursday morning and then
What time do donut places start making donuts?
I just might get
Let's go tomorrow. Because donuts are, I think we'll have to get more donuts are gross. What do you think? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm fine going to get them tomorrow. I can do that. Okay, now we're just gonna throw this stuff away. Oh no, all the ball bearings are going everywhere. It's okay. Mommy's going away.
No. I'm just gonna take the car, I think, if I'm gonna get some pop and stuff.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Okay, so the next thing I think I want to do is switch this transmission mount to the new one. So I'm going to go grab that right now. It's right here. Here's the one off of a Legacy that I pulled. It should fit. I'm going to actually stick it up underneath the car really quick just to make sure, because this is the part of the swap that has been stressing me out. Because I've seen so many different mounts between different years and body styles, and I've never been underneath a manual sedan, so I don't know what the mount under one looks like. So hopefully this will work. Let me stick you on the ground. Okay, let's see where we can get a good angle. Let's see. About like that works. Okay, let's use this as a temporary stand. Okay. Now, Okay. So this comes up on the back. Right there. Sweet. It works. I think. So there's these. Okay, you're upside down with me. There's these little plugs that I'm really hoping still have a threads underneath of them. So I'm going to grab a screwdriver and see if I can pull that out. And hopefully we have threads to be able to bolt in, because that's where that mount bolts up to. And if not, I might just take off the front and only run the rear mount, which I don't really want to do, but you do what you can. So let's grab a screwdriver and try that. Okay. I'm also gonna grab a pick. My screwdrivers are inside. Let's try that one. Okay. Oh, hey, that Ultima. You're not on here anymore, but you were. Okay. Okay, so obviously screwdriver doesn't do jack. They just pop out, and we have threads. Perfect. So those things just pop right out. Okay. Winston, you're always rolling in nasty. Okay, I'm gonna grab the camera and get that for my, I'm just gonna do that. Winston, no. Okay, so before I put the transmission back in, I wanted to check this transmission mount right here, and it does fit. So this is what the transmission mount should look like for your Legacy. I was kind of stressed about it not fitting, but it does. So the way to get it to fit and bolt in, so the lower ends come up right here and bolt in, and then we bolt in up here. But we don't use this one. We don't use that one, we just bolt into those two. So same with over here. We bolt into those two and don't use that one. Then over here, this is what it looks like stock. So right next to this wishbone or trailing arm, control arm, whatever you want to call it, bolt, we have this black plastic piece, and underneath that is where we need to mount our transmission crossmember. So you just pop those out, and there are threads underneath it. So now I'm going to just use both of these and plug them back in these holes that we're not going to use, because we're not going to use them. So might as well cover them up. Doesn't want to go in all the way, but that's alright. So I'll pop this other one in. That one doesn't want to go in all the way either, but you know, that's okay. So we are ready to go. I'm gonna roll that transmission over and bolt on the new transmission cross member, because the one that's on it right now is just from a Impreza. So that should work. We're getting close. Okay, this way. So there's at the back end of our engine right now. It still has the torque converter on it because I need to take some things off up top to be able to get through the window and unbolt that. Not really the best option. The other thing I was thinking is just grabbing my grinder and cutting it off. Right here there's 2 welds. If I cut both of those, there's only 4 of them around the outside. There's one here, here, and up top. And if I cut those off, the torque converter would just fall off, and then I would be able to get them off. Unbolting the flex plate would just pull the whole thing down. I don't really want to do that because I can sell the torque converter with my transmission. But it is kind of a last resort. I don't know, it might be pretty difficult to get the grinder up in here. Just as difficult trying to pull off stuff up top. I just really don't want to take off my whole intake manifold, because that would suck. So we'll do what we can. I'm gonna get out from underneath the car and start bolting that transmission cross member on. There's no good handholds on the back, or I guess on the side. Okay. So that is the transmission mount you want, or the transmission cross member you want if you're doing a legacy. That is the one. Whoop, there we go. The one that's on it is for an Impreza, so it has a much smaller mount. Just because it mounts differently, it sits farther forward, I think, in the engine bay. I'm just adjusting this wide angle lens. Without it, it's way too close crop to be able to see much. So we're going to dump this on its nose and take those bolts off. Let me just do like that. Okay. Okay, so I'm pulling off this transmission mount that is for a Impreza, and all you have to do to get it off, you don't have to worry about any of these, because that'll probably trick you. So, to get it off for real, there's 4 bolts just right here on the transfer case. They're 14s. We're going to just grab a breaker bar and see if we can get to them. If not, we'll just use a box end and mini sledge to break them. Those are what you want. Obviously, you can see how much flex there is in this. So upgrading to a group N, I think is what they're called. Anyway, polyurethane, transmission mount, or even a solid mount would be nice if you're running a lot of torque so that it doesn't twist. Because really, that's got a lot of play in it. A lot of give. It is a 23-year-old mount though, so. Okay, so we're going to do that. So we got our 14 here. I'm just assuming we're not going to be able to get a socket onto that. Let me see There we go. So we're going to swap this out for a rubber mallet. Then grab here. Oh, and we have to go the other way. This is going to be stupid. Not working. You were kind of in the way. Winnie, watch out. Oh, you're stuck. Huh. You're wrapped around all kinds of stuff. Okay. You're free. You're free. Go away. Come on. Winnie, come over here. Come here. Hey, come. Good job. It was mostly just that first one that had issues. The rest are all coming off fairly easily. So this one's not wanting to come off either. Hey, I can get PB in there. Come on. sucks. Well, anyway. You get one use out of the bottle. Good to know. Golly, that was on there. Okay, now we're going to switch to a ratcheting. There we go. Here's the old one. There's our new one. It's a piece of junk. Not doing anything. Let's get to the real stuff. Okay, now we slam this guy back on, just like that. These bottom ones are even harder to get to because of this guy. At least with my fingers. I can get to it pretty dang easy with this. So that's what we're gonna do. Grab our 14 again. Make sure they're all tight. Yep. Okay. Sweet. Okay, I got the correct cross member bolted up. Just those 4 bolts. It's still pretty wiggly, but most of that is just because on the manual cross members, they don't mount up. They aren't connected, so it's supposed to wobble like that, strangely enough. Again, with this one, just like I said with the dog bone, you could tape up one side or just use like a 2x4 or something, pull this apart, take the actual cross member off of the mount, and stick a 2x4 down on it, clamp it to the 2x4, and fill up all of these gaps, especially these ones in here, with polyurethane caulking. That'll stiffen it up really good. Yeah. Obviously you clean all this so it's all nice and clean, and you'll get good adhesion with your polyurethane. Anyway, fill it up, stick another board on top and clamp it together, and that'll seal it up really nice, and give you a way stiffer mount. I've never done that to a transmission mount, so I really don't know how much difference you'd really feel. I would do it. I can't find that caulking that I bought though, so we're just going to leave it how it is. If I ever do want to do it, it's relatively easy to pull off. It's just these 6 bolts on here and then the 4 on here. So we are going to drop it back down on its bum so it stopped leaking transmission fluid all over my mat. And then we're going to get to work on that torque converter, getting the torque converter out. Whoops. Alright. There we go. And let me just wipe this off. Hold on. Take that leak out of there. So it looks like I have another leak besides just this one. It might be leaking out of that speed sensor I just put in. So I'm going to tip it up on its back and see if I'm getting any leakage out of that. Because now is the time to figure out if that's leaking and just stick some Teflon tape on it. Because I don't want any leaks. A lot goes into it before you actually get it in the car. It's kind of... I was planning on doing all of this beforehand, but yesterday's weather was good, so I decided to just go for it. And today it's still even not that hot, which is nice. If I tip it up like that, getting some seepage out of there. I don't see anything coming out, so we're just going to say it's good. And then clean up my mess I just made. Okay. I guess the other thing I could do right now is put on my new throwout bearing. I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So let me flip this around. So all this white stuff, that's all just like corrosion. It's aluminum, yeah, so it's not like rust corrosion, but it's raw aluminum that got wet, and so the water kind of reacts with the aluminum and makes it do that. Kind of funky looking, but not really anything to worry about. I guess I could wipe it down with some oil like that, and it'll get rid of it. But again, like I said, not really anything to worry about. Okay. Okay, so now that we have our crossmember on, I'm just trying to finish up everything I need to before I get this thing back up in the car. And so what we're going to do now is swap out our throwout bearing. So when you pull the clutch cable moves this back and forth on the shaft, just like that. And this release throwout bearing sits and rides on the pressure plate. So even when the engine is turning and you have the clutch in, so clutch is in, this pushes up against those little fingers on the clutch, or on the pressure plate, and releases the pressure on it. But your throwout bearing is what is sitting up against that and taking all of the power from the engine. So you're not supposed to ride your clutch, because when you ride your clutch, or what that means is just you sit around, you drive a lot with your foot on the clutch, or you're in stop and go traffic and you never put it into neutral. You just keep your foot on the clutch the whole time, or like you're going down a hill and you're coasting and speeding up and you just keep your foot on the clutch the whole time. You don't want to do that. You really want to shift into neutral. Otherwise your throwout bearing can go bad prematurely, because this is what's taking all of the power while your clutch is engaged or disengaged, however you want to think of it. When you have your clutch pedal down, your throwout bearing is what's dealing with all of that torque and everything. And if you're doing that a lot, you can throw out your throwout bearing, or destroy your throwout bearing prematurely. So you always want to replace the throwout bearing when you're doing a clutch job, even if it spins nice or whatever. Because really, if you do have a throwout bearing go, no one wants to pull the transmission and engine apart just to replace this little piece when it's a relatively cheap piece to replace. So, to get this thing off, it has these like paper clip kind of things. And you pull off the paper clippies, and you gotta look, on this side it's going up, and on the other side it's going down. So we're gonna pull it off the back like that. And same over here on the other side. And then that throwout bearing just pulls right off. Now there's not an up and a down. There is no like up and down on the throwout bearing. So you just put it on however. So I'm going to go grab that new throwout bearing. And sometimes this snout here, this snout can be bad. It's worn or something, and you can buy specific clutch kits that have a snout cover. It just slides over the top of this, and then the release bearing is larger to accommodate for that extra snout. I've never had to deal with that. I've never seen one that's bad, but apparently it is a thing. So you also want to grease this up a little bit. Your clutch kit should come with some grease, so you just want to grease that and then slide on your bearing. So I'm going to do that. Alright, here's our big clutch kit. I think we can lift this up a little bit like that. Throwout bearing and grease. So, alright. So there's our brand new one and our old one. Our old one's all rusty. Brand new one is nice. This has very slight play front to back. And this one has nothing, and it spins really freely. It's really nice. And so then your kit comes with a little bit of lube. And you just want to put a little tiny bit of lube right on that snout. So then I want to put a little tiny bit of lube right there. Oh, that's leaning up against there. There we go. You only need a little tiny bit. So we're just going to do that. And then wipe it around with my finger. You really don't want to use too much because you don't want it flinging around and getting on your clutch disc, because that is how you get a slippery clutch that wears out really quick. Okay. Move the rest of this out of the way. And just slide it right on like that. This guy, let's actually go ahead and remove this out from there. So this slides on. And this guy is facing up, so it goes on like that. Is that really how I want to do that? I haven't done this in a while. Let me figure it out without that on first. So it slips onto there and then it goes in. Hi, Winnie.
He just threw up.
Winnie, why'd you throw up?
He didn't lick that thing, did he?
I don't think so. Did it have grass in it, or was it just...
It's like yellowy green.
Sorry, Winston. That slides on like that. Just clips on like that. It really does not feel like it's securely on there, but it is enough to make it work the way you need it to work. Okay, so you just take this paper clip looking thing, you slide this bottom, or the lower piece, into the hole on your shift fork. Right. Gotta feel it to find it. Right there on the back. Then you just pull this back up over both of them, just like that. And that's all it is on both sides. They're really fragile, they break really easy, so watch out for that. It really doesn't feel like it's on there, but it is, so don't worry. Alright, so there's that. That'll do good. Now, we need to deal with that pressure, the torque converter. I've been putting off the torque converter because I really don't want to deal with it. But I need to, especially when the sun is behind this tree before it gets too hot. So let's take a look at it, see what we can do, see what we have to do for it. We're getting really close. Once that torque converter is off, it's gonna go by really quick. Because getting this back up underneath is quick. I do want these. So one of these is gonna be our reverse lockout. I don't know what the other one does. I gotta pull up a wiring diagram and figure that out because I'm not super familiar, and it's not in my head anyway right now of what these two actually do. But I know they go over here, like that. They just kind of hang out. So, just gonna leave them. And actually, I'm gonna pull them off. Because it'll be easier to deal with them. Getting it up in there without having these hanging off. Okay, transmission is ready. Oh, what is that? I don't think I need this bracket. Maybe I'll keep it on there, but I don't think I need it. Okay. Got our boot there. Everything's set up. You don't want to put gear oil back in here until you have the drive shaft on, otherwise it'll just leak back out. Ooh. So we're gonna take a break for lunch.